Heartwarming Plea, little boy asks, can you bury my sister? Discover the millionaire's incredible journey. In the heart of the Midwest, where cornfields swayed under the golden sun and neighbors shared stories over backyard fences, there was a small town called Maplewood. Its streets were lined with smiling faces and the aroma of blossoming flowers was always in the air. But beneath the surface of this tight-knit community lay a heavy sorrow. 8-year-old Sam had just lost his sister, Lily, the laughter of his days. The vibrant garden they played in was now a somber place he yearned to see her rest. Sam's eyes, usually bright with wonder, were now clouded with grief. He remembered the way Lily would sing amidst the flowers, her voice floating like a gentle breeze. "Promise me you'll bury me here, Sam," she whispered, her last words a fading echo in his mind. With their mom working 2 jobs to keep food on the table, Sam knew they couldn't afford the funeral expenses. Did that mean her wish would never come true? As he stood before their cherished garden, Sam's heart clenched tightly like a fist. Memories of Lily surrounded him, urging him to act. Yet, asking for help felt like an uphill battle. The town was filled with folks who cared, but could they truly help? With pounding feet and a trembling heart, he made his way to the local diner, where Mr. Grayson, the wealthiest man in town, often held court over pancakes and coffee. "Can you help me bury my sister in our garden?" Sam blurted out, his voice fragile yet determined. A hush fell over the diner. Mr. Grayson looked down at the boy, the corners of his mouth barely twitching in acknowledgement. That indifference hit Sam like a cold wave. Despair washed over him as he walked away, invisible amidst the chatter of patrons enjoying their meals, laughter stinging his heart like an unwelcome shadow. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The smell of barbecue wafted from the community cookout, laughter echoed through the streets, but Sam felt isolated, each smile a stark reminder of his loss. How could he fight against the tides of grief and rejection? Days passed, and whispers spread throughout Maplewood. It seemed like the townsfolk were now aware, some wore expressions of pity while others murmured words of encouragement. Pushing through the pain, Sam decided he wouldn't give up. He approached those he knew, his classmates, neighbors, and shared his story. Their faces transformed as they listened. The atmosphere shifted. His determination sparked something in the hearts of the community. They began to gather contributions, small offerings that filled a jar on the diner counter, a tangible symbol of collective hope. But Mr. Grayson remained aloof. Slowly, the facade around him began to crack as Sam's earnest spirit nudged at his conscience. Could a simple boy's love for his sister inspire change in a man so far removed from such warmth? Just when it felt like progress could be made, a miscommunication erupted in front of the community, leaving Sam feeling more alone than ever. He stood at a half-dug grave, tears glistening, heart heavy, as the townspeople rallied round not just for him, but for Mr. Grayson too. Would compassion finally bridge the divide? As the sun dipped low, Sam questioned whether he would see his sister's final wish fulfilled. Time was against him, and the chance for unity lay precariously in the balance. Sam stood there, heart racing, staring at the half-dug hole in the garden. All around him, the murmurings of the townsfolk filled the air, concerned whispers, fidgeted glances in Mr. Grayson's direction, and hushed conversations that seemed to oscillate between hope and frustration. Grayson, for his part, remained seated at a picnic table, surrounded by his usual company of friends, nursing his coffee while glancing over at Sam. The boy's courage shook him, softening the hard lines of his face. He felt a tug in his heart, a flickering ember that insisted he pay attention. But each time he thought about stepping forward, doubt crept in, blurring his vision with the many walls he had built around himself. Why won't he just help? A girl's voice broke through Sam's thoughts. It was Emily, one of his classmates. Her brow knitted with concern, she stared at Mr. Grayson. "It's not fair," said another voice, tiny yet blazing with conviction. It was little Liam who always followed Sam around the playground. "He has all that money. What good is it if he won't help a kid?" Just then, the clanking sound of metal on metal shattered the tension. Mr. Grayson's fork clinked loudly against his plate, drawing the eyes of the patrons and the reluctant millionaire. The murmurs quieted, the weight of expectations palpable in the air, as if the town itself held its breath to Amar. Grayson stood, gathering himself. He cleared his throat. "Kids," he started, his voice surprisingly thin. "It's complicated." His eyes flicked to Sam, who was still clutching the little shovel, its rusted handle slipping between his fingers. "What's complicated about it?" Sam shouted, his voice rising above the tension, filling the silence with unfiltered emotion. "You've got everything. You can help me make her happy again." The tightness in Sam's throat made it hard to breathe, but he held his ground, hoping Mr. Grayson would see how much this mattered. He needed to feel that someone, anyone, believed that Lily's wish could still come true. That flicker of empathy in Mr. Grayson's eyes was fleeting but real. His voice dropped an octave. "It's not just about the money. What's it about then?" Sam probed, refusing to look away. The diner suddenly felt far too intimate, like being at the center of a stage where everyone watched in anticipation as two very different worlds collided. Mr. Grayson took a step closer, his gaze softening. Around them, the townspeople leaned in, captivated, then, as if a curtain had lifted, a heartwarming notion began to stir within Mr. Grayson. "It's about understanding loss, young man. It's about knowing what it means to love and to lose someone dear. Something I thought I'd forgotten." At that moment, something shifted in Sam. Maybe, just maybe, Mr. Grayson wasn't as far away from him as he thought. "Can you help me?" He spoke again, his voice steadier this time, filled with an innocence that commanded attention. The air felt charged, each person holding on to their breath, waiting for the man to respond. Would he really reach out and finally take a step into that emotional chasm between them? As the weight of the moment settled, Sam clenched the shovel tighter, hope flickering fiercely in his chest. What would Mr. Grayson decide? As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues from above, the possibility of healing wandered into the light on fragile wings, awaiting the response that could change everything. Mr. Grayson stood still, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like an impending storm. He could feel the eyes upon him, the expectations. Sam's hopeful gaze pierced through his defenses, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir deep within, a longing to connect, to mend what had been broken. "Help you?" he echoed, a tremble threading through his voice. The crowd was silent, their collective breath hanging in the air, waiting. He swallowed hard, the bitterness of past losses dancing on his tongue. Could he really step into this boy's world? "What makes you think I can?" "Because you can," Sam replied, his voice sharp but steady. "You know loss. You know what it feels like to want to make things right." He gestured towards the hole in the ground, a gaping wound that mirrored the ache inside his heart. "I just want her to be happy again. You could help me do that." Liam, with his cherubic face framed by tousled hair, piped up. "We all want to help her. You should too." His small hands grasped at the air, as if each word was a lifeline thrown to Mr. Grayson, pulling him closer into their circle of hope. The man pinched the bridge of his nose, trying to stave off the rush of memories that threatened to drown him. Every hardship faced in silence, every pain swallowed down, all crashed through his mind. He had built his empire around the idea of never letting anyone in again. But here was Sam, pouring his heart out, and the boy's pure faith was starting to wear away at the walls he had built. "Listen, I lost someone too," Mr. Grayson finally admitted, his voice wavering. A long time ago. The words felt foreign, like they belonged to another man, one who hadn't built his life on walls of disdain and fear. "But I can't do what you're asking." "But you have to try." Sam's desperation hung in the air, crackling like static. You're not just some rich man. You can be my friend. You can be someone who cares. At that, the townsfolk murmured amongst themselves, confusion and curiosity mixing in the air. Mr. Grayson felt a shifting tide, a sense of collective interest that was almost overwhelming. They wanted change. They wanted to believe. Before he knew it, he stepped forward. The chatter quieted further. What if I help you build a garden? The sentence fell from his lips like a stone, heavy and uncertain. A place for her, something beautiful, right here. A flicker of hope ignited in Sam's chest. Really? The boy's eyes managed to light up even the dimmest corners of Mr. Grayson's heart. Yes, really. He felt a smile break through, tentative at first, then more genuine as the warmth of the idea unfurled. It wasn't just about making amends, it was about creating a legacy, about honoring the memories that still lingered like whispered secrets. As the townspeople began to applaud, an unexpected surge of camaraderie rippled through the crowd. It was more than just a gesture, more than just dirt turned over in the garden. It felt like a heartbeat, a rhythm of hope that could spread through the community, bound by a shared purpose, but deep down, a voice nudged him. Could he truly bear the responsibility of this? Could he really face his own ghosts while helping this boy? Against the backdrop of their unfolding plans, the question lingered, heavy in the air. As they started to gather tools for the garden, Sam looked up, heart full of eagerness. When do we start? Mr. Grayson paused, feeling the weight of anticipation. This was only the beginning, and he was just starting to feel alive again, after so long. What he couldn't yet see was how much his own heart needed this healing just as much as Sam's. It was time for him to take that first step into the light, but would he be brave enough to let himself be vulnerable? As they worked together under the fading sun, a new chapter was about to unfold, one woven with threads of friendship, healing, and unexpected revelations. The sun dipped lower, casting golden hues across the soil as Mr. Grayson felt something shift within him. He picked up a trowel, the cool metal feeling foreign yet promising in his hands. The townsfolk surrounded him, a mix of anticipation and skepticism reflected on their faces. This was a band of neighbors tired of indifference, longing for a sign that someone cared enough to try. Sam waved his arms, rallying the group. Okay, everyone. Let's South make this place beautiful. For Jess. His voice rang out boldly, infectious energy igniting a response from the crowd. One by one, individuals approached, wielding shovels and buckets, laughter rising like bubbles in the air. Underneath the surface, though, Mr. Grayson struggled with conflicting feelings. Each shovel of dirt stirred memories, both sweet and bitter. He found himself digging deeper than just the earth, unearthing pieces of his own heart long buried under layers of grief. Do you think she would like this? He asked, looking at Sam, who was gathering leaves to use as mulch. Of course. She would love flowers, especially the purple ones. Sam grinned, his excitement so genuine that it sent a pulse of warmth through Mr. Grayson's conflicted heart. But as the boy talked of his sister, his voice suddenly wavered, and he was pulled back into a painful memory. Before she got sick, she used to pick daisies in the field by our house. Mr. Grayson paused. The simplicity of a child's joy was almost too much to bear. The boy was fighting a battle he shouldn't have to face, and the ache twisted something deep within him. You're really brave, you know that? He said softly, meeting Sam's unwavering gaze. Braver than you? Sam shot back, determination sparkling in his eyes. The slight smirk on Sam's face made Mr. Grayson laugh, a sound that felt alien but welcome. Maybe this garden could become a sanctuary. It could pull them closer together, not only for Jess but perhaps for himself too. Minutes turned into hours as they worked side by side. Mr. Grayson dug, planted, and shared stories with Sam about his own childhood, a backyard filled with wildflowers and his mother's hands, dirty from planting seeds. He hadn't shared these fragments of his past with anyone in years, but here he was, breaking open like the earth crumbling beneath the trowel. As daylight faded and the smell of fresh earth mingled with the warm breeze, Mr. Grayson glanced around at the small group of townsfolk pulling together. They were laughing, faces flushed with a mix of exertion and joy. Somewhere in the chaos of creation, he'd started to feel a part of something bigger than himself. A connection was forming, one that felt both terrifying and exhilarating, but then he caught a glimpse of Sam, kneeling by a freshly dug hole, his expression shifting suddenly as he picked a fragile purple flower that he had planted earlier. "Can you help me remember her? When the flowers bloom, I want to tell her how much I miss her," Sam said with an earnestness that made Mr. Grayson's heart twist. The request was simple yet profound. This garden wasn't just soil, it was a memory, a bridge connecting the past to the future. "Of course," he said, focusing on the boy. "We will make sure everyone remembers Jess." The words hung between them, heavy with promise. But even as he spoke, a tightness in his chest reminded him of the ghost still lingering. Would he be able to keep the promise to Sam? Working late into the evening, Mr. Grayson's hands became stained with dirt, yet his spirit felt lighter. He couldn't ignore the growing warmth in his chest whenever Sam laughed, each sound peeling back layers of bitterness, but as they stepped back to admire their setting sun-kissed creation, an unsettling thought snuck in: what if this was just a temporary fix? What if tomorrow they lost this newfound connection in the chaos of life again? Just then, as the last burst of daylight faded, a single star flickered above like a beacon of hope, drawing their gazes. "Look!" Sam exclaimed, pointing skyward, unaware of the turmoil behind Mr. Grayson's eyes. This moment of clarity, both boys felt something shift in the air. It was only the beginning of a healing journey that could possibly change lives, but would Mr. Grayson find the strength to keep moving forward? Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more moments of vulnerability. But for now, as laughter echoed into the night, one question loomed, waiting to be answered: could he truly let go of the past and embrace the present to forge a future filled with hope? The morning light broke through the branches of the nearby trees, casting a mosaic of shadows on the garden. The vibrant colors of petals danced in the sunlight, each one a small reminder of Jess. Mr. Grayson stood at the edge of the plot they had tended to the previous evening. He had walked alongside Sam, each step digging deeper, not just into the earth, but into his own healing. "Let us make sure we come back early," Sam said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as he jittered from foot to foot. The eagerness in the boy was infectious, pulling Mr. Grayson momentarily away from his somber thoughts. "Absolutely," Mr. Grayson replied, hoping his resolve mirrored Sam's youthful spirit. But as Sam darted off to gather his tools, he felt the gravity of what today required a commitment to something larger than himself. The townsfolk began to trickle into the garden. First came the familiar face of Mrs. Appleton, her silver hair glimmering in the sunlight as she carried a basket brimming with seedlings. "I brought the herbs," she announced, her voice cheerful but with an undertone of something deeper. "I thought it would be perfect for the garden." "Wonderful." Mr. Grayson's smile felt genuine. "They'll add so much flavor and life." As more neighbors arrived, he watched the different personalities melding into a collaborative spirit. They shared stories, hopes, and laughter, creating a tapestry woven with shared grief and joy. Yet, amidst this warmth, Mr. Grayson felt a flicker of hesitation creep back. Sam paused beside him, clutching a small blue watering can. "Mr. Grayson, do you think Jess is watching us?" His voice was small, laced with innocence and longing. The question struck Mr. Grayson like a lightning bolt. For a moment, he felt unanchored, lost in memories of Jess's laughter ringing through the air like music. Could she see them now? Would she feel the love they were pouring into this little piece of earth? "Maybe she is," he said at last, kneeling down to meet Sam's piercing gaze. "And I bet she loves what we are doing here." Sam nodded, but a hint of doubt remained in those bright eyes. "What if we don't do it right? What if she doesn't like it?" The weight of the boy's concerns made Mr. Grayson's heart swell. "I think," he said slowly, "that doing it with love is what matters most. Jess would appreciate our hearts, not just the flowers." As they spoke, Mr. Grayson found himself reconnecting with parts of himself he thought were lost. The boy's faith and determination chipped away at the walls of his own grief. It was becoming clear that this garden was more than an act of remembrance, it was a symbol of resurrection for them both. With renewed vigor, the two of them along with the townsfolk worked tirelessly through the day. Hands became dirty and laughter echoed. Yet, as the afternoon wore on, the energy began to wane. Suddenly, as they planted the last batch of seeds, a commotion erupted at the edge of the garden. Mr. Grayson looked up to see a figure standing in the distance, pale and ghostly in the dwindling light. It was a young woman with vibrant red hair cascading around her shoulders. She stood there, staring at the garden with an intensity that grabbed everyone's attention. Sam's voice broke through the murmurs, "Who is that?" A hush fell over the crowd. They were all drawn to the stranger who seemed both familiar and out of place. Mr. Grayson felt his heart race. A deep-seated intuition warned him that this encounter could change everything. Who was she? What connection did she have with Jess? As the soft breeze tangled the air around them, Mr. Grayson took a step forward. Their journey of healing was about to take an unexpected turn, and he sensed it would be anything but simple. Would this mysterious girl be an answer to their hopes or a blow to their fragile peace? The weight of the moment hung in the air like the last breath before a storm, and Mr. Grayson knew they were on the edge of something significant. The garden wasn't just a place of remembrance anymore. It was a place where secrets could unravel, and lives could intertwine in ways they never anticipated. What would this new chapter reveal? Mr. Grayson approached the girl, heart pounding, as the crowd fell still. Sam's small hand clutched his side, wide eyes glued to the newcomer. The vibrant red of her hair contrasted sharply with the muted colors of the garden, a fiery beacon that called to everyone's curiosity. What was she doing here? He cleared his throat, trying to steady himself. "Excuse me, can I help you?" he ventured, his voice surprisingly calm considering the turmoil within. The girl turned her gaze toward him, her green eyes shimmering like the fresh leaves around them. "I heard there was a garden here," she said, her voice soft yet tinged with enough urgency to make the hairs on the back of his neck stand. I needed to see it." "Why?" Sam blurted out, bravery overshadowing his shyness. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled gently like a warm sunrise breaking through after a storm. "Because it's important. I used to come here with my sister. This place, it meant everything to us." Mr. Grayson's breath hitched. "Your sister?" The girl nodded slowly, looking away as if chasing away a painful memory. "Her name was Jess. She loved this garden. We used to plant flowers here together." Before her words trailed off like the fading light of day. There was a weight in those words, an unvoiced sadness. Sam's grip tightened on Mr. Grayson's shirt. "My sister, Jess, died too," he said, the weight of his words echoing louder than he intended. The girl's gaze snapped back to Sam, shock followed quickly by empathy. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, the sincerity in her voice piercing the air around them. I didn't know. I just came back to remember her." Stunned silence descended over the group as Mr. Grayson's heart ached for both of them. Grief was a cruel teacher, and here they stood, two strangers bound by the same loss. "Maybe we can help each other," Mr. Grayson suggested, his voice steadier than he felt. "What do you think about planting something here, for Jess?" The girl's eyes sparkled with a hint of hope, a fragile flame struggling against a whirlwind. "I'd like that. A place where we can remember them both." As the townsfolk began to murmur in agreement, something shifted in the air. This stranger, with her raw pain and shared story, wasn't just an answer to their questions. She was a bridge to the past, to healing, and to the memories that lingered like perfume on the breeze. Sam bounced on his toes, the weight of doubt lifting from his shoulders. "Let's plant flowers. They can be for both Jesses." His enthusiasm was contagious, spreading warmth like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Mar. Grayson watched, feeling a swell of emotion in his chest. The garden had transformed again, now a sanctuary not just for memories, but for connections. Each flower planted would carry their stories, intertwining as they took root, but amidst the hopeful energy, Mr. Grayson noticed the girl's face shift, shadows creeping in again. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. She bit her lip, uncertainty dancing in her eyes. I hope she'd be proud. I never got to say goodbye properly." Mr. Grayson's heart sank. "You weren't able to say goodbye? Why?" Her shoulders slumped slightly, and the weight of her unshed tears hung in the air. "Because I was scared. But this garden, it feels like a second chance." In that moment, Mr. Grayson understood. They were all searching for the same thing, a way to mend what was broken. Just as they began to prepare the earth for new life, another question loomed. What had truly kept her away all this time? He took a deep breath, steadied his resolve, and asked, "Will you share your sister's story with us? We're all ears." As her eyes met his, Mr. Grayson could sense another layer of truth waiting to be unearthed, like the seeds they had planted. They were bound now, woven together in their journeys of grief and hope. Life was calling them to take another step forward, and just as the first gentle notes of laughter spilled back into the garden, the smell of damp earth enveloping them, Mr. Grayson realized this might be the very moment they all needed. The question still hung thick with anticipation: could sharing their stories finally release the chains of the past? The girl took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling like the leaves in the gentle wind. She seemed to gather her thoughts, her gaze drifting to the garden around them, as though it held secrets she needed to unlock. "Jess was my best friend," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "and she had this magical way of seeing the world. Every flower here," she gestured to the blooms swaying in the bracing wind, "she picked with care. She believed that each one had a story. She taught me that flowers weren't just plants, they were reminders of moments we shared." As she spoke, Mr. Grayson could see Sam hanging on every word. The boy's eyes gleamed with a mix of sorrow and curiosity as he braved the shared connection of loss. But then, she paused, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "Everything changed. A car accident took her from me just when we were planning to plant a new rose bush here together, her favorite flower. I didn't come back after that, I couldn't face it." Mr. Grayson felt a lump forming in his throat. He couldn't imagine the weight of such a loss for someone so young. "Why now?" he asked softly, wanting to understand what had finally brought her back to this cherished place. She looked up, her green eyes shimmering like dew on the petals. "I realized I was letting fear keep me from the things that mattered. Jess always said that love is stronger than pain. I want to honor her by living fully, by not being scared anymore." The crowd around them seemed to soften, pulling together like petals forming a bloom. There was something tender in her resolve, a spark that ignited hope within them all. "Then let us do it," Sam said, his excitement bubbling over. "Let us plant those roses for Jess. We can make a whole garden for both our sisters together." Mr. Grayson smiled at Sam's enthusiasm. He could see the weight lifting from both the girl and Sam, recognition dawning on their faces that they were not alone in their grief. "Do you have a favorite color for the roses, or a special kind?" he asked her, wanting to keep the dialogue open and positive. She pondered for a moment, her face lighting up. Jess loved pink. The brightest pink you could find. It reminded her of sunsets and cotton candy. "Pink roses it is, then," Mr. Grayson announced, feeling galvanizing energy ripple through the crowd. They formed their own circle, bringing together the supplies they needed. The townsfolk began to share stories of picking flowers as children, of gardens that had been lost and found, and of their own brothers and sisters that still lived in their hearts. As laughter mingled with the scent of earth, Mr. Grayson noticed the girl still hesitating. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. "I've always felt like I needed to do something important, like make a big gesture for Jess. But now, it feels just right to plant these roses. Maybe she'll see from wherever she is." Her voice dwindled again as emotion caught her. "Maybe she already is," Sam suggested earnestly. "She can see us taking care of her favorite flowers." The girl nodded, and for the first time since she arrived, a smile broke through the hesitation. Just as they began to dig into the soil, preparing the ground to receive the new life, Mr. Grayson felt a warmth spread within him. This moment was precious, a moment of collective healing brought together by shared grief, but just as the laughter rang out again, and they settled into plant, a shadow fell over the bright sky. "Wait," the girl said suddenly, a look of fear mingling with surprise on her face. "What if my mom shows up? She doesn't want me here anymore. I left without telling her." The realization crashed over them like a summer storm. Would this newfound connection stand strong against the past, or would it be torn apart before it had a chance to bloom? The group fell silent, holding their breath as if it was their turn to deal with an unasked question. What would happen if her mom found out she was here? The air felt heavy as they absorbed her words. Mr. Grayson looked at the girl, whose bravely composed features now reflected a storm of emotions. The possibility of her mother's arrival hung in the air like a dark cloud, casting shadows over the moment they had just begun to share. "But," Sam interjected, his voice steady despite the tension, "this is important. Your mom might not understand, but we're here for you. You shouldn't have to do this alone." She turned to Sam, admiration sparkling in her eyes. His innocence and determination were contagious. Still, doubt lingered in her mind. But what if she's angry? "I don't want to make things worse." There was a weight to her words, and for a moment, the laughter that had filled the garden faded to silence. Mr. Grayson felt the urgency to ease her fears, to remind her of the warmth this gathering had ignited. "Sometimes, facing what we fear the most is what we need to do," he said gently. "Your mom might need time to understand. You're planting these roses not just for Jess, but for your own healing. That's important too." Taking a shaky breath, the girl nodded, the smallest glimmer of hope returning. Maybe I can talk to her. Let her know I'm here." Just then, a whisper of wind rattled through the trees, almost like a reminder that change was a constant. Kneeling beside her, Mr. Grayson placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've already taken an incredible step by coming here," he said. "This garden is a place for love, memories, and healing. It belongs to all of us." Something in the way he said it ignited a fire within her. Maybe her mother would come to see that too. With a deep breath, she pointed to a patch of soil. "Let's plant right here. It feels right." They all joined in, digging into the earth, their hands working with purpose. Sam found a spade, racing to bring it back to her. The townsfolk shared smiles, knowing they were part of something bigger than themselves. In that moment, laughter replaced earlier fears as stories began to flow once more. They shared tales of summer nights spent under glowing stars, of gardens that watched them grow, of love lost and love remembered. Yet, as they sank the first tiny pink rose into its new home, the girl paused, glancing back towards the mouth of the garden where she had come. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and fear, but more importantly, relief started to settle. "I think I can do this," she whispered just loud enough for Sam to hear. Suddenly, they all stopped as a familiar, yet unexpected, figure appeared at the edge of the garden. Her mom was there, hesitating, scanning the crowd as if searching for someone. The girl held her breath, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. "Oh no, she's here," she murmured, fear creeping back into her voice as everyone turned their gaze toward the approaching figure. The group, now caught in an unexpected moment of anxiety, collectively felt the tension swell. What would happen next? Would her mother understand, or would this be the moment their budding connection crumbled? Amidst the blooming roses, the answer to that question felt like it hung in the space between heartbeats. As the air thickened with uncertainty, Mr. Grayson stepped forward, ready to bridge the gap. Would he be able to mend the past and pave the way for healing? The girl felt as if the ground beneath her were shifting, the laughter and light of moments earlier now a distant echo. Every step her mother took toward the garden felt like a ticking clock, the rhythm of her heartbeat matching the rise and fall of her mother's silhouette. "Stay strong," Sam whispered, squeezing her hand tightly. His belief buoyed her confidence even as a knot of dread tightened in her stomach. She wanted to believe that this moment could lead them to something meaningful, but fear crept in, like a chill shrouding the warmth of the sun. Mrs. Hawkins looked around, her expression a mixture of confusion and frustration. The other townsfolk shifted with unease, their collective breath caught in anticipation. "What are you doing here?" she called out, her voice slicing through the air like a sharp knife. The question hung, heavy, in the garden filled with flowers meant to symbolize love and new beginnings. "It's okay," Mr. Grayson began, his tone soothing but firm. "We're here to share something beautiful. Your daughter." He paused, glancing back at the girl. "She has a lot to say. This is a space for healing." The girl's heart leaped at Mr. Grayson's words. She knew she had to step forward. This was her moment. "Mom," she said, her voice trembling but resolute, "can we talk?" Mrs. Hawkins' gaze snapped to her, searching for something in her eyes, perhaps answers to questions unspoken. The weight of all that was between them hung heavily, but within that moment, something shifted. Just a tiny movement, a flicker of recognition of that small girl who still wanted to share space with her mother. "What is this?" Mrs. Hawkins gestured to the spade and the freshly dug soil. "Why are you planting here?" "For Jess," the girl managed to utter, her throat tightening. "And for us to heal. I thought if we did this together, it might help." Silence fell, stretching like a taut wire. The girl's hope danced at the edges of despair, a delicate thread in the storm of emotions swirling around them. Finally, her mother took a tentative step forward. "In memory of Jess?" she asked, her voice softening. There was a hint of vulnerability in her question, a flicker of the love she had for her lost daughter. "Yes." The girl took a shaky breath, emboldened by the weight of her mother's understanding. "Remember how much she loved flowers. I thought we could plant roses for her." Around them, the crowd watched, their hearts pounding in unison. Sam's grip on the girl's hand was steady, a silent encouragement fueling her courage. Mrs. Hawkins' expression softened further, but doubt still lingered. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted quietly. "I've felt so lost since." "Me too," the girl said, her voice breaking slightly. "But it's okay to feel lost. We can find our way together." Shadows started to lift as Mrs. Hawkins looked from the girl to the patch of soil. "Together," she repeated, as if tasting the word for the first time. In that moment, something fragile yet powerful began to form between them, a bridge woven from shared loss and unspoken love. The garden, filled with hopeful blooms, became a witness to their tentative connection. As Mrs. Hawkins knelt beside her daughter, tears brimmed in her eyes. The girl blinked, not understanding fully what this meant, but sensing the shift. "Let us plant," her mother finally said, a whisper of affection breaking through her hesitance. They began, side by side, the remaining crowd held their breaths. Humbled by the moment, they watched as the roses could soon take root, a promise of beauty amidst the pain. But as they dug together, another figure appeared at the edge, stirring the peaceful air of the garden. The girl's heart dropped when she recognized him. Her estranged father strolled into the garden, his familiar presence a murky wave of memories crashing against the fragile shore they were building. What would happen now? Would this new arrival send their progress spiraling into uncertainty once more? Would he hold them back or offer a way forward? The air thickened again, leaving everyone wondering what conflict or healing the moment could unfold next. The arrival of the girl's father sent a ripple of tension through the gathered townsfolk. She felt the weight of his presence like a cold shadow creeping in, threatening to darken the fragile warmth that had just begun to bloom in the garden. Her heart raced as he approached, his face unreadable. "Lucy," he said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "Is everything all right?" Her mother's hand trembled on the freshly turned soil. "We're planting roses for Jess," she said softly, but there was an edge of defiance in her tone, a willingness to stand her ground. Lucy took a deep breath, squeezing Sam's hand tighter. "Dad, I needed to come back. This garden belongs to Jess. We should have been here together all along. The strength in her voice surprised even her. Lucy, you shouldn't be around this, he began, but Lucy interrupted him, her voice rising over the din of her mother's anguish and the crowd's murmur. No. You don't understand. This isn't just about Jess. It's about us, too. We never really said goodbye. Her words hung in the air, and the crowd turned their gaze toward the father. Every person could feel the shift, like a collective breath held in anticipation of something monumental. Mr. Grayson stepped forward again, sensing the weight of the moment. This is a place of healing. You can be part of it, he said, his tone steady with encouragement. Lucy's father looked around at the families mingling in the garden, at the tears and laughter woven into the air. Slowly, the defenses he held so tightly would begin to erode, like a dam losing its grip against the rushing water. As if observing a fragile balance, he finally took a step closer. You're right, Lucy, he conceded, his voice thick with emotion. I've been afraid to confront everything. Her mother looked up, surprise flickering across her features. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I need to start facing my fears too, he whispered. With the crowd gathered around them, the atmosphere shifted from apprehension to possibility. They could feel the power of their shared grief, and how it had pulled them together like the roots of the roses they were planting. Let us plant these roses, together, her father said, kneeling beside Lucy and her mother. His voice wavered, cracking just like the soil beneath their hands. Lucy felt a wave of relief wash over her. Yes. Together. They began to dig and plant, their hands working side by side. The soil, once a patch of sorrow, transformed beneath the sunlight into a symbol of new beginnings. The townspeople watched with welling eyes, knowing they were witnesses to something extraordinary. A moment where fractured relationships began to mend through the simple act of planting and sharing stories. Sam looked around, his heart swelling with joy. This is for both of our Jesses, he exclaimed, hopping from one foot to the other. The energy buzzed with excitement as families united, laughter breaking like light through clouds. Grayson felt a sense of belonging wrap around him, igniting a fire of hope he thought had been extinguished. He knelt beside them, taking hold of a young rosebush and sharing tales of his own childhood, memories where love and loss intermingled. With each rose they planted, they shared stories, their voices mingling under the summer sky like chorus to a song that had long been silenced. Lucy's laughter cut through the air like a bomb, a testament to resilience woven into the garden's tapestry. As the sun dipped lower and painted the sky with hues of oranges and pinks, they all stepped back to admire the sprawling colors flourishing from the ground. Lucy looked at her father, her heart brimming with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. I think Jess would love it, her mother said softly, wiping tears from her cheeks. She would, Lucy murmured, knowing it was true. The garden was a testament to love that transcended loss, an embodiment of healing for them all, and in that moment, they stood united not only for their sisters, but as a community woven together by empathy, remembrance, and an understanding that it's never too late to reconcile. Each bloom became an anchor, securing their bonds as they breathed life into wisdom learned through heartache. As they turned to leave that evening, the atmosphere was lighter. Laughter rang through Maplewood as neighbors and families went home, but the garden stood, glowing with warmth, a safe haven grounded in connection. Lucy felt her father's hand reassuringly pat her shoulder as they headed toward their home. I want to keep coming back, he said, filling her with courage. To remember, to heal. Me too, Lucy replied, a smile breaking across her face, knowing they would face whatever came next together. As dusk settled, the light flickered on, and amidst the blooming roses, the first hints of hope unfurled, a reminder that life would always find a way. Now, as we wrap up our heartfelt journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that touch the soul. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. It really helps us reach those who need to hear this. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this transformation. Let us start a conversation about love and healing together. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Your engagement makes all the difference and allows us to keep sharing beautiful stories like this one. Thank you.